Good, I say good afternoon, everyone. Well, I say good afternoon. It is afternoon for me, but for my guest who is in New York, it's morning for her, and her name is Rachel Astarte, and she is a, a holistic psychotherapist, author, and an educator. And as you know, my program is about each person's journey because we're all traveling our journey to our spiritual awakening. And sometimes it's not very nice, but it's to say to you, it's okay. We are worthy. It's just a journey. And my guests are telling you what they went through and how they stand today. So without much ado, I welcome Rachel. And there's snow in New York. I'm in London, as you know. It's quite dull, but they've had quite a few inches of snow. So maybe London is about to get it as well. I don't know. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hello, Zenzi. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, it's my pleasure. You know, as I said, it's I say it's brave. You know, years ago when we talk about spirituality, it was a woo woo. And people, and I know it took me many years to come out and say I'm a spiritualist coach. You know, I say this coach, you know, a life coach, but I always tapped into my spirituality. But now we're in an age where the source, the creator, God, whatever name you want to call it, it's one of the same, is now saying to humankind, wake up, because you are my extension. Wake up. You're more powerful than you realize. Wake up. Find that strength, for it's within. So now we're standing up, many of us light workers all over, and now standing and speaking our truth, and you are one of them. So Rachel, let's hear about your journey today.
Absolutely. And I love everything you just said. And, you know, it'll be repeated in different words as I tell my story. So I was very blessed to grow up with parents who were very open about spirituality. I grew up in upstate New York, very far up by Canada, basically. Um, so talk about snow. There's a lot of snow there.
I was going to say, no.
And, you know, and I grew up in a rural area. So basically, my sense of God, of spirit, was nature, being outside, talking to trees. I'm not kidding, you know, feeling very connected to the earth. I'm a Virgo, so I'm an earth sign, so that makes sense. But yeah, feeling very connected. And that is a through line throughout my life. So I would go outside and just never feel lonely. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And sometimes that's something we spiritual people experience.
Yeah.
Right. Or the friends that I did have were very close to me, but I didn't have a lot of friends my own age. I felt more I would gravitate more toward adults because I felt like they had more to say and more to teach me. Yeah. But other than that, I was really, really just connected to the spirit of nature, the spirits of nature. So I never felt lonely. And that was also a through line that went through my life, was I realized that I was the one perceiving and creating and connecting. And so I became, in a way, my own best friend. And then everyone else was kind of invited to the party. You know what I mean? So I was really blessed in that way. My you know, in terms of formalized religion, my mother was raised Jewish. My father was raised Catholic. And they said, hey, go figure it out for yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Go outside and figure it out. You know,
combination.
Oh yeah, all the food, all the guilt, all the shame, you know.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So there was a lot, you know, and I'm very grateful for that very rich upbringing.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, it was a natural thing for me to connect with nature and the spirits of nature. And I feel very blessed to have been supported in that by my family. So as I got older, you know, as we do, we get involved in our individual lives, going to school, finding a partner, doing your thing, being a little bit of an upstart. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I started to think back to spirituality and where am I and how am I showing up? How am I expressing myself spiritually? And let me tell you, Zenzi, I tried everything. I tried everything. I mean, I practiced Zen Buddhism for a while. I really tried to get into Judaism. I even kind of dealt with Catholicism, but it was a little too structured for me. You know, I just tried to mishmash. I practiced witchcraft and as a solitary, which I still do. And then this is many years down the line, began to get involved with Taoism, which I also still practice, and shamanism. So my practice ended up being, my spiritual practice and awakening ended up being very much tied to what Ken Wilber talks about. I don't know if you know Ken Wilber. He does integral spirituality. I read his book in my 30s, and he said, you know what? Just pick something and stick with it, because all that matters is how you connect to spirit. You personally, what do you resonate with? The languages are different, the approaches are different, but it's the exact same connection, right? So I thought, okay, I will follow what I'm called to do at any given point. And my spiritual practice became very much my own. So as the years went on, and I started practicing different forms of yoga, Kundalini in particular, something else was poking at me. And you talked a little bit earlier about spirituality being a bit woo-woo. And I was like, woo-woo does not work for me. I am equal left brain, right brain. I need logic. I need science. And that's when I got into quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And the marriage of spirituality and science. And once that happened, all the pieces came together, right? There is a scientific perspective of everything we talk about when we talk about spirituality, you know, quantum entanglement, right? We literally are all connected. Quantum superposition. We are literally creating the world that we live in by our thoughts, by our perceptions. Yeah. There's a wonderful physicist, Federico Fagin, who talks about us being, so there's the quantum field where everything is possible, and we can call that, you know, spirit, the universe, whatever. Each one of us is a point in that field. And we're collapsing waves. When we talk about collapsing a wave, it means we're seeing the world in a certain way, and that becomes our reality. And we are both an observer of it and a participant in it. Yes. And that just excited me so much. So it became, in a way, my life's goal to continue the practice of this marriage of science and spirituality, because it's not new. 5,000 years ago, they were talking about this. Hermetics talks about this, right? So this isn't new stuff. You know what I mean? We're all just kind of waking up to it. But yeah, when you realize, as you said, how powerful you are, how vital each one of us is in our contributions to collective consciousness by living our true selves, living as our highest self. You're doing that for yourself, obviously, but you're doing that for the collective as well, because there is no difference, right? Go ahead. Yeah.
I put my hand up there because you've touched on so many things, and you're looking at me, you're seeing me beaming. It's saying, yes, yes, yes. Say it like it is. Because, as you say, quantum physics is not new. It's been around in the time of Atlantis, if anybody's heard about that. You know, civilizations way got before. And yet we have to waken up to that reality of how to use it properly, because they eventually destroyed themselves because they went to another thing. And this is what we're all about, is wakening up to the power that has always been around us, which, as you said, can be seen clearly through quantum physics and taking all the rest. And yes, it then fits into place. And it quite clearly shows us what we are: connected. The Creator made everybody, and we're an extension of that, of everything. And when we awaken to that, we need to really think what we're doing. And it's about a discipline, isn't it? It's getting to a discipline and understanding just how we affect everything. And we are energy. We're not this physical body.
Right.
And
That's right.
and I say to people, we only need this physical body for this earth plane.
Mhm.
If you went to the moon, you'd need something else, because you can't go like this to the moon or Mars. And, you know, and we're not the only living beings within the galaxy. And there's many galaxies.
Mhm.
So, oh, please continue. We're all connected. And we're very old as well.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Oh,
never,
yeah.
we never die. We just change form.
That's right. That's the first law of thermodynamics.
Mhm.
Energy never dies, it changes form.
Mhm.
And that's the science, folks. It's not woo-woo. It's just the truth. And I mean, the truth is subjective. I will not say, I won't hang my hat on one thing being solid, but I will say that yes, that is what we know. So I call our human bodies energetic iterations. That's what we are. We're an energetic iteration of collective consciousness. And how cool is that? That you get to do Zenzi this time around. I get to do Rachel. Everybody else listening, whatever your name is, that's you. You are an ambassador of Source.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So do it.
Oh, yeah.
Represent, you know? And the only way, so, you know, I had this question so long ago, why are we here? Why? I mean, maybe we all have that question at some point, but really, seriously, what is the point of this suffering human body thing? This human life? And I had have a really good friend. She's like, oh, well, you know, it's the universe experiencing itself. And I was like, okay. So then as I got into it, oh, collective consciousness, universe, whatever we want to, God, whatever. We are part of the whole, right? Which is the quantum field. That's the science version. It's like talking about Roman versus Greek gods. It's the same thing, different name, you know?
Same thing, different names.
Same thing, different name.
Oh, yes.
So when I say quantum field, I'm talking about God. Okay, same thing.
Spiritual energy.
The same thing. But
Of course.
yeah, a lot of people don't like that. They're like, no, God. Okay. But this is the whole point, is to understand, to bridge that gap, right? So your individual life, all of you listening, you are consciousness experiencing itself. Consciousness went poop and made you say, let's see what that's like. So that's why following our passions, following not what society expects us to do or our parents expect us to do or whatever, is so important. And to go inward and to say, what is my calling? What am I being called to express while I have this energetic iteration, which is this brief little blip of time, you know? And this helps us even to deal with the concept of death, which is an obsession I've had since I was 8 years old, to understand, oh yeah, I get it. It's a cycle. Well, that's really hard though. This is what the Buddhists deal with, right? Is like non-attachment. Don't get attached to this life, to this body. Why? Because you return to Source anyway. You're just changing form. What we have to not get attached to is the Zenziness and the Rachelness and the whoever you are-ness, right? because, and I'm not being flip at all about
No.
mortality, because I've seen it happen. People who are very enlightened, and then they get to the brink of death, and they're like, "Screw this! Like, I don't want to go." You know, they don't go gently into that good night, right?
Yeah.
But it's a practice. You know, I've often said one of my life purposes is to move gracefully toward my death. There's a lot to learn in this lifetime before, and my big prayer is that I'm as ready as I can be to return home, right?
Let me just stop you there, Rachel. You've covered so much there, and it's like, it's music to my soul. It's like, yo, 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 yo. But let's go back a bit, because you said you started to look at these kind of things in your early 20s. And so from your 20s to your 30s, what took place?
A lot of seeking, and a lot of different practices. So as I said, I would throw myself into a practice, and then I would get frustrated because it didn't resonate with me. You know, it wasn't enough. It wasn't expansive enough. And then I would feel, and some people who are on a spiritual seeking path may have experienced this too. You know, after a while, I would start to feel ashamed of myself. Like, maybe I'm not disciplined enough to sit zazen for half an hour a day or an hour a day, and I must be a piece of poop because of it. And I was like, well, that's not right. You know, I don't think that's what the universe has in mind, to shame me for myself, for who I am and what I'm called to do. So maybe I'm not called to do this, you know. And then there is that sort of danger of cherry picking spiritual practices and never really investing in any of them. So between my 20s and my 30s, I was doing a lot, as I said, of seeking and finding out, what am I interested in? And it was in my early 30s that I began to realize what resonated with me was something that really, really came from my core, from the monad, from the center. And that meant I would, like, my connection to spirit was going to have to be my own.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I'm gonna delve in a bit more, because your journey there and finding that, how did it affect your own personal life, in your relationships, your work? How did that journey fit in? Because I'm sure it did, whilst you're in your working life, your personal. How did it affect, and what was going on in your life, in your daily life, while you were going through this journey?
Well, it affected some of my relationships, in terms of, you know, partners and my, you know, as I said, my family was already very spiritual in their own way. So whatever I was doing was like, okay, she's into that now, you know. but I do remember feeling a sense of separation. Like, there's my spiritual life and there's my work life. There's my spiritual life and there's my relationships, mainly because it felt very isolating. I was on an inner journey that a lot of people didn't understand.
Yeah.
And I didn't make this clear before, but my original path was the arts. I was a writer and an actor for many years. So my spiritual life began to affect my writing life, and mostly in my 20s. I was doing some acting, but I was doing a lot of writing. And so it began to inform what I was interested in writing about. I wrote a lot of poetry, and that kind of thing. So I was trying somehow, even in the outside world, I wasn't able to bridge the gap. I would try to infuse my art with my, you know, what I learned spiritually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because this happens to many of us, and this is why I delve into that, because it is that everyday life that we're living, that that calling, that awakening. And as you said, you kept it separated, where as time went on, you realized that you are this, and you are this authentic person, and you need to be authentic in that stream.
Right.
And it can be very difficult time when you start to realize in your relationships or in your work that things are not working right, because that spiritual side is trying to awaken through you.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You want to keep it separate, but it say no, and then things don't work because you are bringing in or latching onto or hooking onto something that is not really cohesive with you.
Right. Right. Yep. And part of that is I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. I was a seeker. So for me, it was almost like this private thing that I did over here, and I wasn't making that connection that this is my authentic self. That's a hard thing for someone in their 20s to say, this is my authentic self. It takes life lessons. And like I said, you know, we have that period of time when we're figuring out who we are, and we're making mistakes, big mistakes sometimes, you know, and it takes maturity and experience to be able to look back at your life and say, that's okay. You did what you could with what you had at the time.
Because it is a journey.
Yeah.
It is a journey from being a child, going through, as you said, you had a Jewish mother, a Catholic father, and all this is part of your journey. All this is making who you are, or this is molding who you are. So it's that spiritual journey, then a teenage time with friends, as you said, you know, and it's finding yourself and, you know, what you like from what you do. And all these things color you, all these things you. And then going into your 20s, and then, as you said, you would talk to trees, you always communicate with nature, and this thing was always with you. And now you go into, I suppose, adult in the early 20s, and now having to interact with people who are on that same wavelength, but you want to interact with them, you want to be part of them, because it's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And start to feel awkward, and then that's where the awkwardness comes in, because who you are and what you're immersing yourself in everyday life is not the same.
No. And you want to fit in, you want to make friends, you want, you know,
that's it.
And then you do stupid stuff.
Exactly. Not realizing, and as you just said, it's not until you move on and you become mature.
Right.
And it is that maturing. And this is what we need to understand, that from babyhood to youngling to you know, going through adulthood, adolescence, and it's all a journey, and we're all having to change and experience and handle, and it's all part of that journey of flexing our muscles and learning who we really are, and then living the life we're meant to live. So now you come into your early 30s and going probably into your 40s and realizing, oh well, becoming at peace with yourself, but still going through the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, that journey doesn't end, thank goodness.
Never ends.
Right?
That's why we live many lives.
Exactly. And I mean, as I said, even once you reach enlightenment, you still have to take the trash out. You know what I'm saying? You still have to be here, right? It is not a place you get to. It's something that is awakened within you, that's already been there, right? So, and you still have to show up. So people say that, oh, I want to be a Buddhist monk and go into a, you know, into a monastery. And it's like, yeah, that's great, because that's an environment that's very comfortable for them to stay in that state.
Yeah.
Drop them in New York City. and let them live day to day and see if they can still be Zen. Ram Dass has that great saying too. If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, Rachel, you are so true. You're so right. It
Right.
is when you isolate and you find this thing. And I know you battle with it. I battle with it every day because you know that it should, you should be doing this and you should be thinking this way. And then you're confronted with the nonsense that's going on. And then you just flip and you should say, no, that's what we should be.
Yeah. Yep.
As you said, take the Buddhist monk, flip them into New York or London and see how you're going
to have fun being Zen.
Yes.
And I tease because I love, but it's a much different thing to be able to stay in your grounded self, what I call the foundation of self. This is what I work on with my therapy clients and students. We build a foundation of self. There are 3 pillars of the foundation of self. The very first one is non-judgment.
Yes.
Non-judgment of self and others.
Yes.
Second one is awareness, just being aware of what's going on in your life. And the third is gentleness, being gentle with yourself and others, right? When you build that foundation of self and you realize what is the true foundation of self is everything we've just been talking about. The true foundation of self is understanding that you are not isolated in the world. You are an integral part of all that is. That's your true foundation. And once you know that, it makes whatever goes on in your day-to-day life so much more manageable, right? But again, you're talking about 30s and 40s and, going through my Saturn return, 28 to 30, that was a crazy time. Everything I thought I knew about myself got thrown up in the air, and I had to kind of rebuild this person. And a lot of people go through that. But yes, as I got older, I was able to be more forgiving. That I think was with myself, and then with others. Everything starts here with us as individuals because we are the point from which we show up. Yeah. So that sounds like, oh, well, now, I have this whole other thing about like community. Everybody talks about community. I say a community is only as healthy as the individuals that comprise it.
Thank you.
So it behooves us to do this inner work, to find our inner spark, to recognize ourselves as an ambassador of source so that we can give freely to our communities and create our communities, and be productive contributors to our little pockets of consciousness. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. It's like when I say to people, you look at the world and say, God, look what's going on there. It's so horrible. And they should do this and that. But we are the world. Hello.
Yeah.
The world is made up of people. And it's the people that do. We are the people.
Right.
And whilst you may not be able to do something about the people over there, actually we can, but that's another topic. It's about looking at yourself and starting with yourself because it gives out a ripple effect. You see, world is the macrocosm and we are the microcosm.
Right. Exactly. And you can go even smaller. Our cells represent, everything that goes on within us as a being. Yeah. As above, so below.
Thank you. So we need to start with ourselves. We need to look at ourselves and question ourselves, everything we do, and realize that we're all connected. Keep that base in mind, that everything we do is a ripple effect and a wave to everything else.
Yeah.
Then it's about disciplining ourselves and looking at ourselves.
Yeah. And it's a joyful adventure. And it can be terrifying. But
yes,
that's why the foundation of self, those pillars are so important. The non-judgment is the lifeblood that runs through it. If we can look at the parts of ourselves that we don't like without judgment.
Yeah.
And say, you know, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, or I don't really have very strong boundaries, or whatever it is. And then we judge ourselves for that. Oh, I'm such a jerk. That's not helpful.
No.
If we can be gentle with ourselves and say, okay, I am a people pleaser. Where did that come from? Get genuinely curious. As you're saying, that work starts with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we can look at our lives and where we might be out of alignment,
this is it,
with our true self, and saying, okay, how do I get myself realigned? So if you're driving your car and the check engine light comes on, what do? Do you just park it to the side of the road and say, well, it's broken, I'm just going to walk away? No, there's nothing. And you don't get mad at the engine light. You just say, something's out of alignment in my car. Let me go get it fixed. You don't have any judgment about it.
Yeah.
Same way with ourselves. If your check engine light is on, then you say, oh dear, my being needs some help. What can I do to help myself get back into alignment? And when you're gentle with yourself in that way, energetically, your vibration is very different than if you're shaming yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I say about the ambassador of source bit. You are an emissary. You are sending energy. You're feeding back.
Rachel, I like the way you said about being gentle with yourself, and that not saying, I'm a jerk, I'm a this. It's not helpful. It's saying, okay, how can I do this differently?
Mm-hmm.
It's being truthful and honest, and realizing something went out of alignment because you were created by source, and source doesn't create distortion. So that distortion came somewhere along. That's another subject, but it's there. And then you say, well, how can I change? And this is what it's all about. Mm-hmm. How can you change it? And going inwardly and reconnecting to source. And when you can say that, I don't like this, this needs to change, you will get help. You just need to be still and listen, and really be sincere with yourself that you want that change.
Yeah. And also understand, and this is true, I think, for all of us, certainly myself, I didn't do this work on my own. I had coaches, therapists, energy workers that, we can't do it on our own. We, not entirely. It's very rare, because it just ends up being like an echo chamber. And there's no shame in asking for help at all. In fact, I think it's necessary to have someone who can guide you or hold you. The universe, you're always being held by the universe. You're always being held. That's true, by spirit, by ancestors, by compassionate helping spirits, all of those things. And when I say ancestors, I mean your bloodline, but I also mean what I call your spiritual ancestors, which is your own iteration in different forms. Yourself that has, come back in many different forms. So there's your bloodline in this time and those ancestors, but there's also your spiritual ancestors. So you're always held, but on this plane, it's a lot of work. And I think it's perfectly fine to ask for help from a counselor or coach or someone like that.
Because as you said before, and I say, we're living on this earth plane with so much going on, and we're interacting with all that, sometimes not willingly, but it is what it is. We're here. And when we see and when we're interacting, things happen. And it's we bounce up against different things, and those things are sometimes there to bring things out of us, to help to show us what we need to change. And sometimes they're there to show us when we think we've changed, have we really changed? So in this dream of life, it's not easy, but it's constantly helping us to check ourselves and helping us to do the work and showing us how far we've got and what more we need to do. and how strong we've become or how weak we still are. But it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's all part of the work that we've come here for.
That's right. That's right. You know, and we help each other. Again, Ram Dass, whom I love, he says we're all just walking each other home.
Yes.
We're all here
Oh,
to help each other. You know, that's really why, because there is no difference. There is no difference between you or me or anyone else, you know. There's a social activist named Sean Ginwright, and he talks about looking at the world. The way that we often look at the world is through a lens. We see the world out there through a lens. And he said, in reality, we need to look at the world as a mirror, right?
You reflect of ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. And when you do that, and he's doing social activism, so he's saying there is no other, there is no conservative and, you know, and liberal and, you know, Labor Party or, you know, whatever, you know, it's not that. They are us, you know?
Yes.
And so we need to really look at, and then it's like, well, it's too much. How am I supposed to like make change in the world? You
start with yourself.
With yourself. You start with yourself, and then you radiate out to your community.
That's right.
Saying a kind thing to someone who looks like they're having a bad day, or who is, or even who has been rude to you, and you being gentle and kind back to them, that has a ripple effect. Yeah. And you don't know how far out that ripple is going to go.
And you know, you hit on something very good, very poignant. And I've said this before, and I'm so glad you said it. Even when somebody's rude to you, it's the way you react. Or if somebody you see having a bad day, it's the way you react, because it has a ripple effect. And you know, we need to be more aware of those things around us. Sometimes you have to black out what's going on in the world, because as much as we need to keep an eye, because it's a reflection of us, but on the other hand, we need to just draw it in and look at things around us, how we react, what we do, and just saying hello. And sometimes I do this. I walk down the road and I say hello, and just that, you know, people get stuck, and people sometimes do it to me, and you start for hello. How does it make you feel when a stranger says hello? And I remember when I was at home, because I come from South America originally, and I've seen my mum, and I know walking in the evening, and you're probably walking home somewhere, and it's getting dark, and couples are coming towards you, and they can see you're old or whatever, and they say good night. They don't know you, but it's just a sense of politeness, manners, and not just passing people, just saying good night. You don't know the person, but just that, and it makes. And I've done it when I've gone walking early morning, and I'm doing it on a regular, and I'm meeting people, and I say hello, and they're startled, and after a time, they get to know. You see them coming, they're smiling at you.
Yeah.
It's those small things we could start doing in our own little area and community. We are the world, and it comes back to us, isn't it? We don't need to wait for somebody to do. How would you like the world to be? How would you like to be treated?
You are the change. Yeah,
we are the change.
And it's great that you mentioned that. And I think this is a beautiful invitation to your listeners to do something like that. A few years ago, many years ago, I did an experiment in New York City where I left my apartment and I said, I'm just going to smile at everyone, not in a creepy way, just like walking, like I'm thinking something nice to myself, and let my eyes fall on someone who's passing by and, you know, smile. Well, let me tell you, you know, people in New York, we're walking down the street, don't make eye contact. And when they did, and they saw my smile and they saw me offer the smile to them, they lit up. Like, hey, you know, and it was just like, oh, you don't, it's like waking them up out of the stupor, you know, where it's just like, you just being in yourself. I wasn't trying to engage them. I said, I'm just going to walk around with a smile on my face, like I'm thinking something lovely to myself, and see how people react when I let my eyes fall on them. And it really made a difference there. They would just come into a smile. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'd get a hello, whatever. So it's the same kind of thing. But I thought,
Yeah.
isn't that interesting that me just being in my own energy
Yeah.
of happiness or centeredness or whatever, contentedness, has an effect on people.
It does. And even sometimes you go sit on a bus and you're sitting down and somebody says, oh, and I said, no, it's okay. You've got enough space. And what happened to you? And just talking. And then you get this whole conversation and you get up and they say, have a good day. You have a good day as well. And you've gone.
Yeah. You just made a little connection with a facet of yourself.
And it's so nice. And I'll tell you something too. And I live in London, and I found outside London, and I had friends who were like northerners in the northern part of England. And we had this conversation many years ago where, you know, they stand at a bus stop and people talk to one another, but you come to London and everybody's. And I actually witnessed this when I've gone outside of London. People do talk or, you know, make a comment or something. And I think when you're in the metropolis, we're so busy, we're so caught up in our own do.
Yeah.
Forget that we're humans. This is not the way life is meant to live. And we really need to change it. And the emphasis is we need to change it. You need to change it.
Yep. So you don't have to take on all of the pain of the world.
No.
You can feel it. You can have empathy. You can, you know, and don't forget the power of energy. Light a candle. Keep those people in your thoughts, prayers, meditations, whatever it is that speaks to you. You know, energy means something. So, and it makes a difference, but start with yourself.
Yeah.
Start with yourself and getting your house clean, you know.
And earlier on when I said, you know, we can't do anything about then, I said, but we can, but that's another subject. But you just, you knew what I mean. Said, light a candle, put the energy out there. And when we start to awaken, and this experiment has been done, and I read it some time ago, and it happened in a state in America where different religions got together, and this particular state, and I can't remember which one it is, but this particular state had a high rate of crime. And different religions got together to do an experiment to pray together for the state and for the crime. You know what happened? Within that month that they started, the crime rate actually went down in the state.
I believe it.
It went down. They all came together. And sometimes you don't necessarily have to be in the same building. You can be in your own homes and decide that some will start praying at once, the other group will start praying at whatever, but it's concentrated on a particular thing. And they did it, and I read it. And actually, the time that they were praying in that went down. And when they stopped, crime rate raised. So it's energy. So we can, and if we can do that in the state, we can do that in the world. But again, there was an experiment done in the world as well with Buddhists and different people all over praying for a particular thing. And it's energy. It's energy.
Absolutely. That's science.
Yeah, it's been experimented and it's shown it can be done.
Yeah.
So Rachel, what are you doing now? What courses or what retreats or what books? Come on, tell us all about yourself, what you're doing, and how people can connect with you, please.
Yes, of course. Well, I have my private practice. Anyone who wants to visit, please visit my website. You can go to foundationofself.com or rachelastartetherapy.com. Either one, same place. Yeah, so I do one-on-one work with people, either on a therapy or a coaching basis. But I have an ongoing evergreen program. We meet every Tuesday, every second and fourth Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you'd have to do them. I can't do the translation. What are you, 5 hours, 6 hours ahead?
I think what is the time there? Are you
It's
now?
almost 11 a.m. here. So,
Right. So it's almost 4 o'clock. So it's 5 hours.
okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Mm.
So whatever that would be, 5, 6 o'clock in London. But it's all online, and there's a program called Write Yourself Open. I've been teaching it for over a decade. And what we do is guided meditation and then reflective writing and group discussion. And each meditation is designed to awaken certain aspects of yourself. So I'll give you some examples. Sometimes when we're on this inner work journey, we hit resistance, or what we call the gatekeeper, right? We do a meditation that helps you meet and negotiate and work with the gatekeeper to help you to continue your awakening process, right? So this is all about developing everything we've been talking about this hour. So the meditations are usually 15, 20 minutes, and then you write. Writing is very important to be able to get down the images that you have received in that journey. And then as a group, we come together and we say, what happened for you in this journey? How can we support each other? Again, working as a community with the common goal of awakening and supporting and lifting each other up. So that's called Write Yourself Open. You can go to writeyourselfopen.com, and that will take you to the sign up page. And you can come for one class, or you can sign up for a package of them. It's entirely up to you. But always,
I'm glad you said that, because I was about to say, how do we get to that? And as you say, and everybody's hearing, it's writeyourselfopen.com. Write yourself open, all one word.
Yeah,
.com.
on the and the actual course is 4 words. Write yourself open. Self is a different thing. It's not yourself. It's, we want to really focus on the individual self, capital S self. So yeah, and so it's writeyourselfopen.com. You can also access it on my website, which is found either at foundationofself.com or rachelastaretherapy.com.
Okay.
And that is ongoing. That course, we've just finished our first year of the online program, and because usually I teach it in person. So I'm really excited to be able to offer it. This is now our 2nd year entering in January. We're going to start up again, but you can join anytime. Yeah.
Great. So, Rachel, I've had a wonderful time talking to you. You're music to my soul, music to my ears. Lovely. Especially when you start to talk about quantum, it's like, yes, the science, there it is. It's all been there all the time.
Absolutely.
Now, before I say thank you and goodbye, can you leave us with a gold nugget or 2 or 3 that you would like to share with the viewers to help them along their journey, something that they can take to help them along the journey they're taking?
Yes. I know we've said it, but I really think it's important, if you leave with anything, is to remember how powerful you are. That you may feel like you're not important, but you are. And you have the strength, and your purpose is to live as your true self. And any message that you're getting in your mind and your self-talk that says everybody else deserves love but me, really bring that closer, like a crying child, that thought that I'm unlovable or I'm not good enough. Bring it closer like a child and soothe it, because that's not true. Because you didn't believe that the moment you were born. You had that information instilled upon you in some way. And so show gentleness and love to yourself, And when you have those negative thoughts about yourself, bring them closer and show them love without judgment, and just see what happens, because you are so essential. Your energy is our energy.
Yeah.
And you contribute just as much as anyone else, the Dalai Lama or anyone else,
Yeah.
to this world.
Yes.
Right. So I can't wait to see what power you generate. I'll feel it.
Rachel, thank you so much for that. And to all my viewers and listeners all around the world, I know you've enjoyed this talk we've had with Rachel today. And until the next time, remember, you are worthy, you are powerful, and you are so loved. And you are an essential part of this life. And everything you feel and say is reflected all around. So love yourself, and therefore you'll send that love to others. So for now, thank you everybody for joining. Rachel Astarte, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It was a pleasure.
And do some snowballing in that snow in New York.
I think I will. I think I will.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.